We're going to have a short teaching on the topic of the purification of the mind through the Yamas and the Niyamas. So, in the teaching of the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, which is the scripture of Raja Yoga, yoga that aims at the purification and the control of the mind, we have in the second chapter, which is called Sadhana Pada, the beginning of the description of what we call the Ashtanga Yoga, the 8 limbs of yoga. And these 8 limbs of yoga have a foundation which is called Yama and Niyama. And the Yamas and Niyamas are called the foundation of yoga. So foundation means, Swami Sivananda explains, if you build a building without proper foundation, then you can begin, definitely. But if the building is going to be higher and higher, at some point the building will collapse because of the stresses of gravity, wind, whatever it is. In the same way, as an aspirant builds the building of yoga, aspires to go higher and higher, the aspirant will be exposed to more and more spiritual stresses, which are going to come and shake the building of yoga, and lack of a proper foundation will mean the collapse of the building. So this is why the higher the aspirant wants to progress, the deeper the practice of Yamas and Niyamas need to be. Another analogy is like a tree. When a tree is very small, the roots are very small, but it doesn't need much support. As the tree grows, the roots need to be deeper and deeper. In the same way, as the aspirant evolves, the roots of Yamas and Niyamas need to become deeper and deeper and deeper to allow the tree of meditation or vision into reality to be an actuality and not remain as an intellectual idea. So this is why the Yamas and Niyamas are given great importance. Adi Shankaracharya actually says from the 8 limbs, the most important ones are Yamas and Niyamas and Samadhi, which means the beginning and the end. So he gives great importance to the practice of Yamas and Niyamas, meaning that the Yamas and Niyamas are the actual practices we need to do to have an actual meditation. Without them, meditation will remain just a technique. Then comes the question, what are the Yamas and Niyamas? So, see the Yamas. And the way that the yogis explain the Yamas, the way that the Yamas are explained in the Yoga Sutras themselves, is the following way. So the Yamas are called the restraints. And then, right, so if you see the name is restraint, then immediately the question comes, what do we need to restrain? The answer follows. The Yamas, the restraints, are counteracting the kleshas. Practices of the Yamas are based on meditation and the capacity to perceive directly the evil in the kleshas, and not to act upon the impulses arising from the kleshas. By not acting upon the impulses of the kleshas, one practices the Yamas. So, what are the Yamas? The Yamas are there to counteract or restrain something which is called the impulses of the kleshas. What does it mean? So Patanjali Maharishi explains in the same Sadhanapada that what we call experience, or what the yogis call samsara, is governed by 5 forces, which the yogis call kleshas. They are called kleshas or afflictions because they make sure every day that you are miserable. This is why they are called kleshas. So they are the forces that govern the mind. We perceive the world through them, and they are forms of afflictions, and they are all modifications of avidya or ignorance. So these kleshas, very briefly, they are first and foremost avidya. Avidya means ignorance. Ignorance means not knowing the true nature of the I am, the self. So the analogy that is given is like we have space. The space, right, if I have a bottle, the space appears to be limited inside the bottle, right? All of us, when we open the bottle, we say, oh, I have bottle space inside. It's natural, we all see it. But actually there is no bottle space inside the bottle. This is just a false perception of the mind based on the fact that we don't know what space is. We see space, right? We know space, but we know space wrongly. We don't know space as being limitless. This is called ignorance. In the same way, we know the self, we know the I am, all of us are aware, all of us exist, everyone knows this, but we know the awareness and existence being inside the body, being inside the mind. I am happy, right? That's the meaning that your bottle is happiness, right? I am unhappy. Your bottle is unhappiness. I am jealous. Your bottle is jealousy. I am young. I am old. I am this, I am that. So we have this sense of a bottled self, bottled inside emotions, sensations, physical attributes, etc. This is called avidya, ignorance. All the other kleshas are modifications of avidya. They are the immediate outcomes of this type of ignorance. So then we have egoism, the sense that that the mind is the origin of awareness, basically. That's the meaning. So I am a subject. I am an experiencer. The moment I am an experiencer, I am a subject. Consciousness is limited to the mind. Then whatever I experience or whatever I know is outside of me. If it's outside of me, it's not me. If it's not me, it's limiting me. So the nature of egoism is that everything that you know is a limitation for you. Okay? So this is called egoism. Specifically, the yogis say, whatever you experience is in the form of pleasure and pain, because that's karma. The fruits of our past actions, which according to the yogis is what makes up the experienced reality, the world, the universe, is an experience of our own fruits of karma, which generally speaking is of the nature of pleasure and pain, or the pairs of opposites. Then therefore, because we experience it to be limited, we are either desiring the pleasurable, because it's pleasing. Pleasing means it gives you happiness, but it's outside of you. Because it's outside of you, you need to possess it. This is the idea. And then there are painful objects or experiences which therefore you want to get rid of. So raga and dvesha are the immediate outcomes of egoism. And then there is abhinivesha, fear of losing this impermanent body. This is the idea, because we think we depend on it. These are kleshas. What are yamas? See, so these kleshas, they don't just reside in your mind. Kleshas generate impulses, meaning the way that the yogis see it is that the subconscious mind, which is full of vasanas, is like lava. It's like a volcano. It's a volcanic soil. And this volcanic soil is erupting as impulses. These impulses are impulses that are created by kleshas, and they are generating pain. They originate in pain, meaning wrong perception, and they will generate nothing but pain. This is the idea. These are called impulses, subconscious forces. And these forces need to be restrained as the beginning of spiritual evolution. This is called yama. Okay, so the yogis say we cannot progress unless practically we restrain those impulses. There cannot be a way to progress because we are reasserting, reinforcing the forces which generate problems in our life. Okay? So this is yama. Now, how do we restrain? That's the question. See? So it is explained that the restraint must come from understanding. See, because these are unconscious forces, their power is in not understanding them. That's their power. Subconscious forces are of great force because they are unknown. See? Swami Vishnudevananda says, whatever you don't know controls you. This is the meaning of ignorance. And therefore, how can you gradually gain control over the yamas? You need to understand them. You need to increase your capacity to understand what they are, how they operate in your mind. And most importantly, Patanjali Maharishi explains, their negative consequences. How they are basically injuring you. That's the meaning. So this sounds a little strange. Don't we understand that the sources of suffering are causing suffering? Then the answer is no. We think they are our best friends, actually. And that's the problem. The problem is what is called in yoga delusion, or in Sanskrit moha. Moha means, simply put, very bad ideas appearing as brilliant ideas. That's called moha. And the operation of the kleshas in the mind manifests as moha, which means these ragas and dveshas, these desires and attachments, they cause the mind to be intoxicated and deluded in a way. This is called temptation. Temptation means that the operations of the kleshas, which are nothing but suffering, appear as something which will lead me to happiness. This is the idea. This is why the control of the kleshas is very difficult, because they appear as forces which will bring me happiness. This is the whole scope of samsara. Otherwise, everyone would get out of samsara immediately. You just learn about the kleshas, samsara is painful, that's it. You make a U-turn and you're out. But that's not how it is. See, so these forces are forces which are very powerful. And they appear to be constructive forces in our life. Okay, so, but actually, they are destructive forces. So this is why we need to counteract and restrain them by right understanding. So therefore it is said that the yamas are actually based on analytical meditations, analyzing the kleshas and understanding how the kleshas are generating pain in your life. So the practice of the yamas is actually based on the power of discrimination. This is basically the meaning. we need to analyze the kleshas, understand their negative operation in our life practically, not philosophically. We need to actually see it, how the kleshas generate suffering for me. And this deep understanding of how the kleshas are forces of pain will allow us to gradually implement the yamas. This is the idea. What are the yamas? In 1 minute, the yamas are ahimsa, non-violence, and universal love, compassion, the cultivation of non-hurtfulness and compassion, harmony, balance. So yogis learn to counteract the forces, the animal forces, which are responsible for tension, suffering, misunderstandings, and all these type of things. So the Patanjali Maharishi explains, the more we practice ahimsa, the more there is a pervading harmony around us. So much so that yogis that are established in ahimsa, it is said that even natural enemies will become harmonious in their presence. Such is the power of ahimsa. So it's a power that nullifies violence. It's a power of pure love or universal love. This is the idea. That's called ahimsa. Satya means truth. So truth means that Swami Vivekananda says God is truth. God can be attained only by truth. By truth, we get to the truth. What is the meaning? The meaning is that truth is reality. The only way that our mind will become calm, tranquil, and balanced is if it's rooted in truth. If it's not rooted in truth, then we will constantly need to protect our wrong vision. See, we will need to constantly support the unsupported way we perceive reality. And therefore our mind will be in constant tension. Whereas the nature of truth, that it is always protecting us. We don't need to protect it. See, reality protects us. Therefore our mind becomes calm. If our mind is rooted in wrong understanding, wrong vision, we will constantly need to protect this wrong vision. This is called untruth. It generates a mental noise in the mind, emotional noise. Asteya means not to steal. This is clear. Also not to hoard. And then brahmacharya means to lead a disciplined life and to learn to see the one reality in all names and forms. So basically to live in the self. Try to live in the one reality which abides in everything and everyone, and to increase this vision that everything is the one reality. And then aparigraha means no greed. It's the counteracting of greed. And the reason is that greed is a force which is created by what we call materialistic thinking, which means that the whole value of life is to get things. So this is greed, and what greed does, it's a very powerful force of removing any sense of meaning from our life. This is why greed is detrimental for the spiritual path, because it makes the mind very superficial. So these are the 5 yamas.